Greetings, my Facebook friends. It's Tuesday, the 20th of July, and this is by far the most important video I have ever done. You've been following me now for 16 months, and I put up some really good videos, important ones, but there's nothing comes near as important as this one here. A good many of you have messaged me and said, Liam, would you please, in the only way you can, put up a simple layman's explanation as to what this vaccine is all about. We're hearing all these big words and we're a bit confused. And honestly, if you don't know anything about biology, it is pretty confusing. So I'm going to try and put it down, explain it to you as simple as I can, okay? First of all, this is my little son, David. David graduated from Liverpool University July 2019, and he went for a 6-week tour of South America. There's Machu Picchu in the background. He went all over Colombia, Peru, Chile, Argentina, and Mexico. And I said, David, you make sure you get your malaria, yellow fever, and tetanus vaccines before you go. He's a pretty smart kid, and he said, yeah, of course I will. I insisted that he take those vaccines. I am not anti-vax, I am pro-vax when the situation demands it. And him touring South America on his own, staying in dirty old hostels and places like that, he needed those vaccines. So don't anybody coming on saying, yeah, he's an anti-vaxxer. I am not. To help explain to you what this new vaccine is all about, I'm going to have to tell you how a normal vaccine works. A normal vaccine is where you get, well, first of all, let me explain it in another way. You ever seen wildlife programs where a tiger or a lion is injured or it's got an abscess in its tooth, so they have to knock it out and the guy's going to work fixing the tooth or whatever it is. So they sedate the old tiger, right? And it's lying there and the guys are operating on it and it's saying to himself, if I could just get my claws into them people or my teeth into them people, I would soon show them ways, stop picking around my teeth. But it can't do any of those things because it is sedated, yeah? Well, that's what a normal vaccine is. The shots that my son got, the shots that you got for your flu vaccine and polio, diphtheria and all those ones, you get a virus, like a coronavirus, and or a flu virus, they're all the same thing more or less, it's all got spike proteins, and you treat it in such a way that it cannot make babies. You put it into the body. All vaccines go into the muscle. This is paramount, into the muscle, and the B lymphocytes come and they make antibodies before the killer T cells destroy it. Those antibodies stay in the body, and when you get the real virus later on, or the bacteria, or the diphtheria, or the tetanus, you have the stuff there to deal with it. That is the theory behind a normal vaccine, and it's good. This vaccine is completely different. It's not even a vaccine. So, in order for you to understand it, I'm going to have to do a wee bit of basic biology. So, when did your life first start? It didn't start the minute you popped out of your mommy's womb. It started the minute daddy's sperm hit mommy's egg. In daddy's sperm there's a nucleus, in mommy's egg there's a nucleus. Inside those nuclei there are chromosomes, okay? And what happened then was, when the sperm and egg met, you had the formation of you. This is you. This is you. When them two came together and formed one cell, that's how you started off life. Inside that nucleus looks like this. And inside that nucleus, well, we can do it with the same pen. Inside that nucleus is 3 things called chromosomes. Yeah, some from mommy, 23 from mommy, 23 from daddy. And if you take one of those chromosomes and look at it, it's like a string of beads. I'm doing this really simple now. Don't nobody coming up and saying, that's not what DNA looks like at all. I'm doing this for people who know nothing about science. And it's a big long string DNA, and a certain part of it codes for a particular characteristic. That there might represent colour of eyes. That there might represent the size of nose. This here, the size of fingers, etc., etc., etc. There's about 3,000 different characteristics, okay? So, the reason I'm telling you this here for a reason, okay? Inside the old coronavirus, there's a nucleus. And inside that nucleus, there is one strand. I'll just draw it here. Okay, I'll draw it here. Okay, so there we have the virus. And in it we have one strand. That's called RNA. And what the scientists have done is they have discovered that wee bit there codes for the spike protein. Now, I'll be talking about the spike protein in a wee minute. So that bit there, just the same as a certain part of your chromosome codes for the colour of your eyes or the size of your nose, etc., etc. That wee bit there, they have worked out in the lab, is responsible for making, for that cell, for that virus to make a spike protein. Okay? So what they have done in the lab is they have made synthetic copies of that wee strand. Here's it here. Right? They have made synthetic copies of that little bit there in the lab. Synthetic means made in the lab. It's artificial. Okay? And they put those little synthetic strands of the genetic material for making the spike into a vial. There may be 40 trillion of them. And what they do is put the old needle in and they pull it out. Now, I'm going to take this needle off. There's nothing in it. I'm just doing this for demonstration, yeah? And they put it, see the suntan, they put it into the deltoid muscle. You watch it. It must go into the muscle. This is vital. It must go into the muscle. All vaccines go into the muscle because it must never, ever, ever, ever go into an artery or a vein. It must never, ever, ever go into your bloodstream. Vital. So, I have done an awful lot of research on this last 6 weeks. And my theory was, I said to myself, something's happening. I mean, the majority of people that I've been speaking to who've got the vaccine said, yeah, my arm was sore for a couple of days, but it's all right now, I'm okay now. A few people had groggy reactions, but I've been speaking to a lot of people who have friends who are still suffering, still in bed, can't do any work or nothing. And of course, the old VARS report, the government's VARS, 1,400 people have died. And I think in UK, since January until the middle of June. And thousands and thousands and thousands of adverse reactions. So something's going wrong. And here is what's going wrong. Okay, pause this. As you know, I'm still teaching A-level biology in a private capacity. And the book I use, this one here, this is a book that's used in medical school for doctors. This stuff is chock-a-block with everything you need to know about the human body. Yeah. And here is the deltoid muscle. See it? That's it in section. That's it there. Up there, the deltoid muscle. The deltoid muscle is that big unsunburned bit there, right? That's the deltoid muscle. That's where the vaccine has to go. So my theory was, I said to myself, I wonder, is it leaking out of the deltoid muscle? And I contacted a friend of mine, one of the best students I ever taught in a private capacity, went on to Trinity, and he's now a surgeon, a leading surgeon in a leading hospital down in Dublin. And 2 Sundays ago, because I'm at the age now where I can get an old free pass down to Dublin on the train, I met him in Dublin, and I said, Matthew, great to see you, blah, 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 blah. I said, listen, I need you to tell me, you're a surgeon, you've operated on people in car accidents, motorbike accidents, farmyard accidents, blah, 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 blah. Can you tell me where the blood vessel is down this arm? Is it possible, Matthew, when someone experienced or inexperienced is putting a jab into a person's arm, into the deltoid muscle, is it possible that they're hitting an artery or a vein and the bloody stuff is going into the blood, which it shouldn't do, and traveling all around the body? He said, Liam, it's very, very possible. And you got to take into consideration the lymph system. The lymph is your heart pumps blood all around the body, from the heart all around the body, blah, blah, blah. It goes into muscles and tissues, and then it's collected up in veins and took back to the heart again. 15% of it is lost. It's lost, and it's sludgy all over your body. But thankfully, your body has got drainage pipes, like a farmer has drainage pipes in the field to take away excess water. You have drainage pipes all over your body, and there are drainage pipes down the arm. He said that needle could well hit a lymph vessels, or it could hit a major blood artery or vein. I said, wow, that's my theory substantiated. Okay, now I want to show you. I'm going to pause here. Now this is a heavy bit. I want just to try and understand. This is very, very heavy. When they inject the vaccine into your muscle, they're injecting into your body the blueprint to make the spike protein of the virus. So what happens is, there is the messenger RNA, there, look, and this coming in to your cell. And what that's doing is that is telling your cell to make its own spike protein, which is exactly the same spike that's on the virus. You become a spike protein factory. One little strand of RNA would make maybe 200 or 300 spikes. What happens if you got an injection into your muscle with 1,000 little codes for the spike protein? Now, that's not too bad, because what will happen is the immune system, B cells, will recognize these artificially produced spikes and make antibodies for it. That is the idea behind a messenger RNA vaccine. And it's not bad. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is, if that, I'm going to pause here. If the RNA, which codes for a spike protein, gets into the blood, travels around the body, and goes to the heart, for example, it will cause the heart cells to make little spike proteins all over the place. Yep. In the heart muscle. What will happen then? What will happen then is the immune system will go on the attack, because this is a foreigner. This is an enemy. So the immune system attacks the spike protein found on the cells of the heart, causing inflammation. Yeah. This is why people are having terrible heart inflammation. Okay, pause. Now this is very, very dangerous, what I'm about to explain to you now. This is a blood capillary. Yeah, a very, very narrow capillary. Can be in your brain, it can be anywhere in your body, mostly in your brain. Yeah. And here are red blood cells. These green guys represent platelets that cause blocking. If the code for the spike protein gets into your bloodstream, which it does, and travels all around the body, when it comes to a capillary, when it comes to any part of your body, your big veins and your big arteries, no big deal. But when it comes to a small capillary, and it makes that cell produce spike proteins. Remember, the messenger RNA tells your body to make spike proteins. So if your cells lining your capillary start making spike proteins, that there means that surface is rough. The surface of the inside of your capillaries must be as smooth as that board. That makes it rough like sandpaper. What happens then is the platelets say, wow, there's a problem here. Let's form clots. Because this is not flipping right. Forming clots. That is how clots are forming. Plus the fact the immune system, T cells, will go on the attack, causing inflammation, causing more clots. This is deadly. This is why people are getting clots. It's because the spike protein that was in the vaccine was meant to stay in your muscle and not leave the muscle. And no matter where it goes in the body, it codes that cell to make spike protein. Okay, John, go for it, John. Sorry for this, folks.
Welcome to today's talk. It's Wednesday, the 30th of June. Bit of a different update today, and I am taking a bit of a risk because I might bore some people, but I think it's quite important to cover this because there's some new research out that is indicating that my theory about inadvertent intravascular administration, that is giving the vaccine into a blood vessel, might be causing some of the complications we're seeing. And the evidence here relates to the adenovirus vector vaccine. That's the Oxford vaccine. Presumably that's going to
all
be
vaccines, John.
it's
all
also
vaccines.
going to be true for the Janssen Johnson & Johnson vaccine as well. Now this is the risk. Let me show you the risk here. It's on this screen. So the risk is that the injection is given into a blood vessel in the deltoid muscle.
Showed this chart, and he said normally when you vaccinate someone, the vaccine goes in the shoulder and it stays in the shoulder, in the shoulder area. And what happens is the antibodies are generated and they attack this antigen in the shoulder and it wipes it out and we're good. But what Byron Brittle did is he did a FOIA request to the Japanese government to look at the biodistribution data. And what he discovered is that it doesn't stay in the shoulder where we all thought it should stay. It goes throughout your entire body. It goes to your brain, to your heart.
So that's two problems. One problem is, and the other
Previous vaccines.
The other problem, and this is your area of expertise, is that what these vaccines do is they encode spike protein alone so that the immune system will learn to recognize spike protein
Yeah,
and
we know
catch
that.
it quickly when
No,
one
this
is confronted
scenario.
with COVID. But the spike protein...
Here we go. This is what's happening, folks. Remember Jurassic Park?
You gotta go, you gotta go.
The spike protein was supposed to stay in the muscle. Remember the scene in Jurassic Park where it said the dinosaurs have escaped and they're breeding? Wow, that's it. That reminds me. Look at that. That's what's happening. The vaccine is escaping from the muscle. Remember that scene? Now listen folks, that video wasn't very professional. I don't do professional videos, I just do off the cuff. It probably shouldn't need to be rehearsed, but you get the idea. The muscle is the scene of where the action should be. The vaccine's not supposed to leave the muscle, but it's leaving the muscle, going all over the body, having terrible reactions. And now they're making young people take the vaccine, and you can't go into a disco or a dance or go to a supermarket unless you have proof of double vaccine, maybe triple vaccine. We got to stand up for this, because if that spike protein gets into the people's blood, into a woman's blood, which it does, and goes to the ovaries, that's the end of her reproduction. She'll not have any more babies because it'll mess up the ovaries. And the same with testicles in young men. Ooh, there's something evil here. And not to mention blood clots in the brain. This is terrible. You need to share this video with everybody and tell them they run a risk of serious damage. Now, the people who I know who have just got a little twing and they're okay, I don't know what's going to happen further down the line. Nobody knows. It takes 10 years for a vaccine to be assessed. So I'm hoping and praying that those people are going to be okay. But I will never ever take the vaccine, not the vaccine, I will never take that poison, and never will any of my family.